Is it really possible for a gold saint, considered the highest elite of Athena's army, to be included in a list of the weakest? Of course, someone who has reached the level of gold saint is extremely strong. But among the 12 classic gold saints, there are 5 who are considered the weakest according to most fans. Hello, Saints and Amazons. Welcome to the Sempre Quiz Saber channel. I'm Wes, and today I'm going to show you who the 5 weakest gold saints of the classic saga are according to the fans. Did you like the topic? So go ahead and comment which gold saints you think are the weakest. And of course, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and let's get into this awesome video. Always. Guys, before we start this list, we need to make one thing absolutely clear here. All 12 gold saints have a completely insane level of power. We're talking about warriors who have mastered the 7th sense, who can move, attack, and dodge at the speed of light. This is an absurd level of power, the very pinnacle of Athena's elite. No gold saint is completely weak, and that's why they can't be defeated by just anyone. However, when we put these 12 sacred warriors side by side and analyze their feats, their techniques, their tactical limitations, and the consensus of the vast majority of fans around the world, we realize that there are indeed some who seem to be below the most powerful of this rank. So, with that said, let's get to the list. Number 1, Aldebaran of Taurus. So let's start with the imposing guardian of the 2nd house of the sanctuary. Born and trained in Brazil, Aldebaran of Taurus is the pure definition of physical strength, brute endurance, and an imposing presence. Within Masami Kurumada's work, with his height of over 2 meters and colossal musculature, he stands out by far among the other gold saints. The big problem with Aldebaran in the classic saga isn't his lack of destructive power, but rather the way the narrative used him over time, turning him into what the pop culture community usually calls a measuring stick for danger. Aldebaran's combat strategy is heavily inspired by Iaido, the Japanese martial art of quick sword drawing. He positions himself with his arms crossed, adopting a stance that is both defensive and offensive at the same time. When the enemy approaches, he uncrosses his arms at an imperceptible speed, unleashing a devastating cosmic shockwave called Great Horn, and instantly returns to his initial position. This technique combines the speed of light with impact pressure, being capable of pulverizing the opponent. The decline of Aldebaran in the perception of fans begins precisely in the Battle of the 12 Houses. He was the first gold saint to have a real fight against the bronze saints. Although he was testing Pegasus Seiya's determination and not fighting with the intent to kill, the fact that his armor's horn was cut off by Seiya, who was just awakening the 7th sense, slightly scratched his reputation for invincibility. But what really weighs against the Taurus Saint are the events that happen later in the classic chronology. In the Asgard saga, Aldebaran is caught by surprise and knocked out by the god warrior, Shido of Mizar, and his hidden brother, Bado of Alcor. Right after that, at the beginning of the Poseidon saga in the manga, he faces the Marina General Sorrento of Siren. Even after bursting his eardrums so he wouldn't hear Sorrento's deadly flute, Aldebaran ends up being overcome by the symphonic melody, which attacks the warrior's soul and nerves directly. To top off his series of misfortunes, in the Hades saga, Aldebaran ends up being killed by the specter Niobe of Deep, inside his own zodiac house. Although Aldebaran managed to use the Great Horn and disintegrate Niobe's body, even after his death, the fact that he was defeated by a warrior of intermediate rank in the underworld army, it cemented in many fans' minds the idea that Taurus is excessively vulnerable to sneak attacks. He is a monster in physical combat, but if his opponent uses indirect techniques or poisons, Aldebaran becomes a giant and slow target. Night number 2, Deathmask of Cancer. Moving on to the 4th house of the sanctuary, we come across one of the most sinister, sadistic, and controversial characters in the entire franchise, Deathmask of Cancer. He is the living embodiment of the moral corruption that plagued the sanctuary under the false rule of the Grand Master Gemini saga. He is a man who does not fight for justice or for the goddess Athena, but rather for pure pleasure and the blind conviction that absolute power dictates what is right and what is wrong. The codename of the Cancer Knight is no accident. The walls, ceiling, and floor of his temple are literally decorated with the faces of the souls of all the people he has murdered throughout his life, including women and innocent children who were caught in the crossfire of his missions. These faces remain moaning in eternal agony, emitting a dark lament that destabilizes anyone who dares to enter his dwelling. From a technical point of view, Deathmask has practically only one ability, which is extremely dangerous: the Waves of Hell, the Sekishiki Meikaiha. With this attack, he projects an aura of spiritual energy that separates the opponent's soul from their physical body, sending it directly to Yomotsu Hirasaka, the hill that serves as the border to the land of the dead, the underworld ruled by Hades. If a soul falls into the Yomotsu pit, it can never return to the world of the living. If his attack sends the enemy's soul straight to hell, the reason why he is considered vulnerable lies in his extreme dependence on this technique and his fragility when the fight drags on. During the epic confrontation against Dragon Shiryu at the Rosen Waterfall, and later at the Cancer Temple, it became clear that if the opponent has a strong spiritual connection, an unshakable will, the knight's effectiveness drops drastically. Deathmask had to go personally to Yomotsu to try to push Shiryu into the pit of death, showing a lack of resources to finish off his enemy. Furthermore, the main factor that seals Deathmask's fate is his own Cosmo corrupted by evil. At a crucial moment in the battle, the Cancer Goldcloth itself, which has its own will aimed at defending justice, refuses to continue protecting such a vile being and simply detaches from the villain's body piece by piece. Without the golden protection, Deathmask revealed himself to be an ordinary fighter in hand-to-hand combat, being thrown by Shiryu straight into the underworld. In the Hades saga, his reputation took another hard blow when he, posing as a traitor while disguised as a specter, was easily subdued by Mu with the Starlight Extinction, and later humiliated by Rhadamanthys of Wyvern in Hades' castle. This sequence of humiliating defeats cemented the Cancer Saint as one of the weakest gold saints in terms of power level. Knight number 3, Aphrodite of Pisces. The 12th and last zodiac house is protected by Aphrodite of Pisces. Described as the most beautiful among all Athena's 88 saints, Aphrodite hides a cold, ruthless, and extremely dangerous assassin behind his looks. Just like Deathmask, he was fully aware of the evil acts committed by Gemini's saga, but chose to support him because he believed that only an overwhelming force would be able to maintain world peace and order on the planet. Aphrodite's fighting style is completely unique. Aphrodite focuses on manipulating roses infused with his own Cosmo, using 3 specific types of deadly plants: the royal demon roses, which are red, the piranha roses, which are black, and the bloody rose, which is white. Despite having an arsenal that guarantees brutal deaths, Aphrodite is often underestimated and placed in the lower power tiers. In the Battle of the 12 Houses, he faced Shun of Andromeda. Although he managed to strike the bloody rose into Shun's chest, Aphrodite was completely obliterated by the Nebula Storm, a purely cosmic technique of manipulating air currents that Shun uses only in cases of extreme necessity. The fact that Aphrodite was unable to withstand the pressure of Shun's cosmic wind, even while wearing a gold armor, showed that his bodily durability and his ability to counter massive brute forces leave much to be desired when compared to the absolute defenses of men like Shaka or Mu. The final blow to his reputation came in the same way as it did to his companion Deathmask in the Hades saga. Both returned as renegades, were swept away by Mu's techniques in the first house, and later thrown into Yomotsu by Rhadamanthys. Knight number 4, Milo of Scorpio. In the 8th zodiac house, we find the proud and impetuous Milo of Scorpio. Milo is the personification of the classic Saint Seiya warrior, loyal to his ideals and extremely proud of his position, impatient, and possessing a very strict sense of honor. He has one of the deepest friendships in the sanctuary with Camus of Aquarius. This is strongly reflected in his actions and in battle. Unlike warriors who unleash great explosions of energy capable of devastating entire galaxies, Milo's fighting style is surgical, precise, and cruel in his own way. He uses the index finger of his right hand, whose nail grows and takes on a bright red color, similar to the stinger of a scorpion, to unleash his main technique, the Scarlet Needle. This technique consists of delivering 15 consecutive strikes to the opponent's body, which correspond exactly to the 15 stars that form the constellation of Scorpio in the sky. Each sting causes an indescribable physical pain, comparable to the sting of a real scorpion, multiplied thousands of times, causing severe bleeding and the gradual loss of the victim's five senses and sanity. The 15th and final strike is called Antares, the heart of the scorpion. If the opponent receives the Antares needle, death is instant and inevitable. During the Battle of the 12 Houses, Milo faced Hyoga of Cygnus. He struck Hyoga with 14 needles and was about to deliver the finishing blow. However, at the last second, Hyoga managed to freeze the vital points of Milo's gold cloth with the Aurora execution, paralyzing the Gold Saint's body for a few moments. If Hyoga's Cosmo had been a bit more developed at that moment, Milo would have suffered fatal injuries, or might even have died right there. Realizing the miracle and the value of the Bronze Saint, Milo stopped Hyoga's bleeding and allowed him to pass. In the Hades saga, he struck Canon of Gemini with 14 needles, but Canon was accepting the blows willingly as a form of punishment and redemption for his past sins, without fighting back with his true power. When he faced the trio of renegades, Saga, Shura, and Camus, who were already severely weakened and had lost some of their five senses due to exhaustion and the battle against Shaka, Milo was almost obliterated by a lightning-fast counterattack from Gemini Saga. Because of this dependence on a long combat process and the lack of overwhelming feats against top-tier enemies, Milo ends up being seen as one of the weakest Gold Saints. Number 5, Camus of Aquarius. In the 11th house, we have Camus of Aquarius, known as the Ice Mage. Camus is a man with an extremely cold, calculating, and stoic personality. He firmly believes that a true Gold Saint should never show emotions on the battlefield, always acting with pure rationality no matter the situation. To understand the real reason why Camus is on this list, we need to understand some concepts from Saint Seiya. The Ice Warriors use their Cosmo to slow down the atomic movement of matter. The slower the atoms vibrate, the lower the temperature will be, and the more durable the ice will be. Camus has incredible techniques, such as Diamond Dust, the powerful Freezing Coffin, and his ultimate technique, which is Aurora Execution, a blast of freezing energy that projects the lowest temperature the user can reach. Here's the big turning point about Camus of Aquarius, which shocks many people. For a warrior's ice to be truly indestructible and able to completely paralyze the atomic activity of a gold cloth, it is strictly necessary to reach the temperature of absolute zero. And here lies Camus' major conceptual weakness. Camus of Aquarius himself was never able to reach absolute zero in the classic saga. Despite being a veteran Gold Saint and a legendary master, the maximum level of freezing that Camus' Cosmo can achieve is something extremely close to absolute zero, but not the exact point. Because of this technical limitation, his freezing attacks do not have the power to freeze or definitively destroy a gold cloth on their own. During the climax of the battle in the 11th house, Camus faces his pupil, Hyoga of Cygnus. Camus tries to teach Hyoga through combat that, in order to surpass him and survive, the young hero would need to abandon his feelings and reach the ultimate limit that even his own master was never able to achieve. In an epic clash of Aurora executions, Hyoga fully awakens the seventh sense, reaches the true absolute zero, and manages to freeze and defeat his master. Therefore, on the power scale, Camus ends up being ranked below other warriors because he has a limiting power ceiling within his own element. But in the end, my friends, analyzing the power level in Saint Seiya is always a challenge, because Masami Kurumada's work makes it very clear that the outcome of a battle between knights doesn't depend only on who has the most powerful armor, but rather on who can push their Cosmo to the absolute limit, at the crucial moment of the confrontation, the famous miracle. So, what did you think of this list? Do you agree? Or do you think any of these 5 warriors was treated unfairly in this interpretation of the facts? Leave your opinion down below in the comments. And of course, thank you for watching the video until the end, and see you next time. Burn your Cosmo to infinity.